Today I want to talk about my family. Three generations of Chinese Hui Muslim women had a U-shaped recovery of their fortune in less than 100 years. My grandma, well, first I want to talk about Hui Muslim because that's our family's background. Hui Muslim are actually from Central Asia. During the 1200, the Mongolians occupied China and all the way to Eastern Europe. So they brought soldiers from Central Asia to China to station across China, and these soldiers intermarried with local Chinese and then become this new minority which look like Chinese, most of them, but practice Islamic religion. In 1949, when the Communist Party took over, recognized Hui Muslim as a special standalone minority group. My grandparents were born in the Qing China, the ending era of the Qing China in the early 1900s, around 1902, 03. Qing China actually ruled China between 1644 to 1911. During Qing actually they are Manchus, they are not Han Chinese, they are nomad minorities used to live north of Beijing. But in 1644, they toppled the previous Ming China and then established Qing Empire. During the height of Qing Empire, the Qing Empire expanded Chinese territory to include Taiwan, Hong Kong, Tibet, Xinjiang and surrounding areas, Mongolia, and Manchuria, which is actually the home base for the Qing Empire, which is next to Korea. During the Qing Empire, around 1720 to 1800, China has achieved the world, number one GDP in the world by just simply for its agriculture economy, because the population around that time is around maybe 400 million, more than what is US today. I actually upload in a separate channel a TV clips from a TV adaptation of a classic Chinese novel called The Dream of the Red Chambers, which depict the life of a rich aristocracy family in the 1700s with the wealth that rivals British royal family today. So at that time, China has the world's number one GDP, but the fortune turned when British invade China to push opium trade. China lost the war with Britain in 1840 and first conceded Hong Kong Island. And later in second war with Britain, signed a lease to lease Cologne and the new territory to Britain to export opium to China. And that's the basis for Hong Kong return to China rule in 1997 at the end of the 99-year lease. So in the next 60 years between 1840 to 1911, China basically colonized by several major powers, include Britain, United States, Japan, Russia, France, Germany. In the 1900, it was invaded by 8 nations. These troops basically looted Beijing and then burn down the royal palace of the Qing Empire. But even during this 60 years, China lost Taiwan and Manchuria to Japan in 1895 during the Sino-Japanese War. So in 1911, the new China. So my parent was born at the end of the Qing Dynasty. In 1911, there's a new uprising toppled the Qing Dynasty. The founding father of New China, called Sun Zhongshan, and with his ideology of nationalist and socialist system to be implemented in China. So my grandparents were actually local gentry and middle class life at that time. But unfortunately, my grandpa passed away at a very young age due to opium addiction. So because of the opium trade pushed by Britain, 20% of Chinese population were opium addicts by 1950. So my grandpa is a victim of that. So at his death, he left my grandma with 5 young kids, age between 2 to I think 12, and also the mother-in-law. My grandma became a single parent, but she refused to remarry and single-handedly support a family of 7 by herself. Is a really amazing woman in that age. Also because she grew up in a middle-class family, and she was educated. At least she completed her 7 year of education. So that was very rare for a woman of that time. My mother was born in 1942 during the Republic of China, which is founded in 1911, and was defeated by the communists in 1949 and retreated to Taiwan. So the official name for Taiwan actually is Republic of China. During the Republic of China, less than 40-year rule of Republic of China, there's just ongoing civil wars and invasion by the Japanese. And that's when my mom was born in 1942, before the end of World War II. So throughout my mom's childhood, she was plagued by poverty, because my grandpa always wanted a son, and so he had 4 daughters. Eventually, he got a son. My mom, when he was born, my grandpa was very disappointed and actually kicked her to the bedside, because he was disappointed not to have a son. So my mom, growing up, actually suffered tremendously with poverty and emotional neglect. All her life, she had to deal with this insecurity from that, affect her relationship with the family members. So I was born in the new China, the communist China, founded in 1949. I was born in 1969. I grew up, very beginning was also out of poverty, working class. I was born premature because my mom starved herself to save food during pregnancy, to save food for my grandma. And my mom, when she grew up, she was so poor she had to wear shoes with no sole to school, to her embarrassment. So she always doesn't want go back to visit her hometown because she doesn't want to relive the memory of poverty and humiliation. After 1949, the communists took over China. It implemented many policies to boost the social status of women, abolished prostitution and polygamy, and also improve the access of education for women, and also relationship, actually affirmative action to promote the status of minorities like Muslims. That's the kind of environment I grew up. That throughout my life in China, I never experienced racial prejudice. And on the other side, I feel I live a life like a little princess. We were, practice Islam. We went to mosque. Even though my mom tried to pressure me to, learn more about Islam religion, with the government's intervention that, children do not have to learn religion until they are 18, when they have a choice. So I was free from my mom's pressure, which I value that very much, because eventually I become a Christian in the United States. But I also benefited from affirmative action when I actually got my first job. With God's divine intervention, I went to a university which was not my choice, but only through this university, I got a great job in Beijing, to the envy of many, many people. People have to pay a lot of money to get a job in Beijing in the 1990s. But I got it free because my employer was a state enterprise, so they practice affirmative action to the T. Knowing me as a Muslim, so they gave me a free private dorm, so I don't have to mingle with pork-eating Han Chinese, to the jealousy of my coworkers. A private dorm is a benefit reserved for employee with 10 years tenure at the company. And I got it just because I was a Muslim, freshly graduated from college. So during my time, I worked in Beijing for 3 years. And with my luck and also my effort, I eventually got a great job, pays me 20 times of regular workers, with a purchasing power of almost $1 million salary a year. So that's why when I left the state enterprise job, I also lost the benefit of a free dormitory, the housing. I had to buy a home at that time. And so at the age of 25, I bought my first home. And so I became neighbors of famous artists and movie stars. I became basically enjoying a middle-class life when middle-class life was not even heard of in China. I became elite. But also, by God's intervention, divine intervention, I came to United States. Just comparing my life as a minority in China, my first 25 years, and a minority in the US, over 25 years now, I can tell you from my personal experience, I have been subject to racial discrimination in the United States. I have basically sued a local government for discriminating my business. But in China, to law-abiding Muslims, Chinese government really treat the Muslim with TLC, tender loving care. Not like the United States. The United States treated minorities with suspicion and prejudice. And I thank China, actually, the government, every day for a free college education. So, in 94, I came to the United States with $40 in my pocket. Now I enjoy middle-class life. At one point, I owned 10 properties, around downtown Chicago. That just shows that, God really blessed me a lot. And I want to tell the world what policy, what kind of government the communist China is, if I were born in the United States from a poor working class, I would never be able to enjoy a lifestyle that I have today. I know many of you have heard all those negative publicity, propaganda against the Chinese government. I just want to present to you my side of the story. Now you will hear two sides of the story. It's up to you to go to China to find the truth. In my opinion, Chinese government deserve credit. By Chinese constitution, Chinese government represent the working class, the workers and landless farmers. And yes, China will not let Jeff Bezos of Amazon exist in China because everything's owned by the majority of the people, not by the few. That's what the socialist is about. The socialist is about equality. It can be equally poor and can be equally rich. And that's what the Chinese government is trying to do to improve the living standard of all citizens, especially the people on the bottom. That's why the Chinese government has over 80% approval rating, because it represents the people like my own family, who are now all of them, maybe except one cousin who also have a college degree that is middle class. The rest, as among my cousins, most of them are still working class, but they still live with the dignity, not the homeless on the street like those working class Americans. I hope you have a chance to open your mind, open your eyes, to watch some English-speaking YouTuber from America, South Africa, Canada, who has lived in China, who's currently living in China, and present you what this government have done for its people, even though they experience setbacks. First 40 years caused a lot of tragedy in the society, but the last 30 years, I feel the Chinese government deserve credit. Thank you for listening to my video. I hope you have a chance to go to China, discover China with your own eyes and for your own opinion, rather than listening to some media with a political agenda. Have a good day.